Hello, my name is Peter Parfitt. Welcome to New Brit Workshop. This is the third video in the series of moving the workshop to the new location. Progress is going quite reasonably well. This is the main part of the workshop. I've now got the polystyrene down, the plastic on top, and I'm now going to continue doing the flooring. I've had to move all of my flooring boards, which were around the corner in the smaller part of the workshop, because once I get towards that end, working from here, I need to actually continue on into there to lay boards. So in other words, I've got to put the battens down in there in order to be able to continue that. So it's quite a complicated time, really. Now I've just cut the piece which is going to go just to my right here. And I cut that from a fresh sheet. Now what I want you to try and imagine is you've got two rooms to do like this, and the two rooms come together. So in other words, they've got to have the same pattern of layers of chipboard from here to there. They've got to join up and meet. So if I cut a piece off the end of the sheet that went there, it then goes to the other side to be on the other side of that wall. And what I'm doing is I'm numbering these with the number 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 lines there, so it'll be 3. And I will then put an L for left, because that piece will go on next to the other side of this wall. So that piece goes on the left in that room. And the opposite of that is at this end. This piece here in this corner was cut from a whole sheet. The other part of that sheet has gone into the other room in level 1 or layer 1 for the far side. I say the far side because it's got a cut edge now on that side. Similarly, this piece is going into layer 2 of the other room on the far side. In other words, on the right in there. And that's the process. That means that I waste no parts of my sheeting at all. In fact, I think I end up with, I think it's 8 pieces about this long at the end of this operation. Well, I'm ready to get going cutting boards again, so I'm just setting up my cutting station again, putting in the Super Dog, the rail in place. Absolutely spot on there. Super, so I'm ready to go. And this is the piece I've just cut to go into this space here. That's the cut edge. Now the piece I've just left on the cutting station will go on the other side of here. It's number 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll put 4L on it because it will be on the left-hand side just in there. Now I'm using glue when I do these boards, and some people use the Gorilla type glue. To be honest, I haven't got any at the moment. I ran out the other day and I can't be bothered to get any, so I'm just using ordinary PVA, and for me that'll be good enough. After all, this is only a workshop. There's a little corner there which I broke. I'll just push some glue there so it goes down inside, and then I can make sure that goes together cleanly. Now I've got a 10mm gap all the way around, and so that gives me a little bit of wiggle room. But when you come to put the last bit of board in place, you've actually got to engage it and then encourage it to go down. So in order to get this to go across, I can't really put any pressure in one spot on this, but I can spread the pressure out a little bit by using something like this. And I can now put a couple of screws in just to keep this in place. That's it. And I've got to remember 4 left for the piece that I've just cut from. Now I thought I'd show you this. This is a Festool SDS drill bit which I've been using for cutting holes in the concrete floor. but I've only just started using this one. This was the other one. Now, if you look here, it's lost the cutting edges at the top here. And the reason for that is I made an error. I accidentally had my drill switched into reverse mode as I was drilling, and I must have drilled probably 60 holes with it like that, and then that's what happened. Now, one like this, used correctly, will last, well, forever almost. Right, now I'm just doing the interface between the large part of the workshop where I started and this smaller part. And of course we've got this dividing wall. Now the temptation for some may have been to then start at the top wall up there and work this way until one needs to do a join. Unfortunately that would be rather silly. This piece continues on and joins on with the bits that we had already done in the large part of the workshop. Now, in order to make sure this is in the right place, it's seated properly against the boards which are already in place on the left there. It's seated properly against the end board there. And as a sort of belt and braces, I've used a straight edge just to make sure that this edge is dead straight, and it is. So I've now glued that, screwed it, and that's now my reference point. I can now continue from here and then work that way. Now this is the part of the workshop where I would, if I'm going to put the car in the garage, it would be in this part. And you can see I've got some extra battens and these have extra support underneath, and this is at 300mm intervals that way, and this way it's about 180 roughly, so centre to centre. Now when I was cutting the polystyrene, rather than getting my tape rule out each time and measuring exactly what size it should be, I used a story stick like this. And I'd already graduated it, and all I did was push it up against there and easily read it off, and I can then take that across to my sheet of polystyrene, put a mark and then cut. It just was a lot quicker than using a tape rule. Well, things are progressing quite well. The radiator has now been fitted and it actually works. Well, actually it wasn't me, it was Chris the plumber who came and fixed that for me. And in this part of the workshop, all the flooring is done. The only part I've got to do now is in this area. You can see the one sheet which is propped up against the wall just there. Unfortunately, this was the one sheet which was really severely damaged when it was delivered. And somehow or other I've got to work this in, and it's going to have to go here, or part of it will go here, part will go at the other end there, and it will probably work. That's the theory anyway. Anyway, I'm going to just finish this bit of flooring and then we'll see what's next. Now, someone recently asked me about mitre joints using the path guide system and using that 45-degree angle which I showed in one of these previous videos. And I suddenly realised, of course, I've got an example of that here. If you look at the loft hatch, you'll see the architrave has been cut at 45 degrees. Now, this is not really the best example because of course, the loft hatch was not a perfect right angle to start with. So I'll bring you in reasonably close so you can see those joints. And frankly, those are pretty good considering that loft hatch wasn't necessarily a square opening in the first place, or a proper rectangular opening in the first place. So that was done using mitre cuts, which was done on the MFG3 with my own custom top made with a path guide system.